The Charlotte Ledger Podcast is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network.
This episode of the Charlotte Ledger Podcast is presented by Childcare Search. Does your search for childcare have you stressed out? There's a lot to consider, like quality, price, location, schedule, and more. At Childcare Search, a service of Childcare Resources, Inc., our knowledgeable navigators can help you find licensed care that fits your family's needs. Visit www.findchildcarenc.org or call 1-888-600-1685 for free personalized guidance. Hey, it's Tony Mecia with the Charlotte Ledger, and you're listening to the Charlotte Ledger Podcast. You can find out more about the Charlotte Ledger at thecharlotteledger.com. Today, we're sharing a conversation I had recently with Michael Blanco. He's the president of the Charlotte Economics Club. So we nerd out a little bit about the Charlotte Economics Club, what it is, who it tries to reach, and what the appetite is in Charlotte for speakers and programs devoted to economic and financial topics. And I think we both tried to make the point that economics isn't dry textbook material. There's no test, but it's about real life things that do matter. Like jobs and savings and spending and where the economy is going. And I'm just going to admit that I like the topic of economics, and I like the Charlotte Economics Club, and the Charlotte Ledger is their media partner. And of course, we're always happy to highlight people in Charlotte who are contributing to raising the level of dialogue here. I hope you enjoy the discussion. All right, Michael, thanks for joining me.
Tony, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, so you are the president of the Charlotte Economics Club. For those who might have never heard of it, what is the Charlotte Economics Club?
The Charlotte Economics Club, when you think about other economics clubs in the nation, the Economics Club of New York, Chicago, Cleveland, we're extremely similar, right? And so what we try to do is promote discourse and education around economics at the local, regional, national, and then international level. The education piece really comes in because when you come to the Economics Club, it's not like you're going back to school and you're learning economics 101. We're not sitting there for an hour and a half talking about R squared or the GDP formula and things like that. It's
demand curve, is it the money supply,
right,
M1 or whatever it is?
M1, M2, M3 money supplies and all that stuff. But we're talking about topics that are really relevant to people in Charlotte, people in the country, nationally, internationally as well. Things like tariffs, trade deficits. We talk about Fed independence, interest rates. We talk about the things that are moving markets today, right? For example, it's today's date. I don't know if we'll talk about it, but markets were hit pretty hard. Artificial intelligence impact on labor markets. We talk about labor markets. So we talk about all these different topics that impact the broader community and the broader country, to include GDP, GNP, and even including geopolitics, and how geopolitics fit into the macroeconomic environment at a global scale.
I think if I can just interrupt you there, I do think, I don't know if economics has like a branding problem or what,
right.
But like a lot of times you say economics and people are like, that's kind of sounds really boring. And I run into the same thing, we do a lot of business journalism, right? We report on the business world. And a lot of people are like, oh, business journalism, that sounds really dry. You're just like covering the stock moves and stock prices. And it's like, no. It's about stuff that you care about. It's about jobs. Right. It's about money. It's about spending. It's about, all kinds of things. So I think the same is also kind of true of economics, where it's like, some of the stuff you could go really deep into the weeds if you wanted to, but at a higher level, it's stuff that everybody's talking about. Crypto, AI, 100%. Jobs, personal finance, buying a house, the housing market. It's all these things that I think are much more interesting. So I don't know what your take is on that.
Well, Tony, to your point, it's things that people are talking about all the time anyway, things that people enjoy talking about. A lot of times you find these things fascinating, like the housing market, how the yield curve impacts the housing market, what Fed independence really means, how did the tariffs really impact the economy at the end of the day. These are all things that people are talking about just day to day at the dinner table, at lunch with your colleagues, your friends, and your family. Everybody has an opinion on it. And so what the Economics Club does is we bring in those subject matter experts. The vice chair of the Federal Reserve was one of our guests last year. Jan Hatzius, who's the head global economist for Goldman Sachs, came and spoke. And, the job market's really the labor market right now is a hot topic. And we brought in Laura Earlrich from Indeed, who's their head economist, to talk about what that job market looks like right now, what it looks like going forward. And those things matter. It matters to students who are graduating. It matters to parents whose kids are graduating, of what that job market looks like, what different jobs are in decline versus what's appealing and going to be in demand in 5 years. And so these are all things, to your point, that we're talking about anyway. It's not, when people think about economics, they think about that 500-page textbook that got slammed on their desk in high school. And no, it's a lot more fascinating and interesting than that. And you don't need to be an economist to appreciate it.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I've started coming. You have monthly lunch meetings at the City Club there uptown. I've started coming the last few months, and the Charlotte Ledger is happy to be the media partner of the Charlotte Economics Club. And one of the reasons we wanted to do that is because exactly what you're talking about. It's a lot of really contemporary issues. You have a lot of smart people in the room talking about stuff that affects people's lives, and you all have you've had a really wide range of people talking about jobs, talking economists at top banks and bank economists coming in saying what they're seeing from the bank's data. And a lot of people don't understand, but like bank data is great because it tells you in real time what is happening. Like they can see money starting to move here, or people are cutting back on spending there, or they're doing this. So the data that the banks have is really rich real-time data, because a lot of times you got to wait a month or a couple months for some data to come out. So you had, I think it was the Bank of America Foundation economist or somebody like that came in. It's a lot of really good topics.
And that data provides context, right? Like you said, in real time, and you're getting it from the professionals that see it on a daily basis. All these guys do is they take in all this data, and it provides a picture. And so rather than, as we sit around the dinner table talking about all these different topics, they provide context and what the data actually means. And it's super interesting that they're able to do that. And it allows the broader community to come in and learn from those folks. And it's not just economists that come to the Economics Club events. We have obviously bankers, managing directors, vice presidents of the banking industry. But we also have students and politicians, and we also have people just like myself who are super interested in economics, but aren't economists themselves. Like I am a retired military officer. I was, up until about 5 years ago, just a recon officer in the 82nd Airborne Division. When I left the military, I found a love of finance, got into banking, and I find economics very interesting. And so a buddy of mine turned me on to the Economics Club about 4 years ago. I just became a member, and then I joined the board, I think 3 years ago, and I've been president now ever since, for the last 2 years, going to my second term. And it's been fantastic. You just get to meet so many great people, learn about so many different topics.
We'll be right back to the conversation. This episode of the Charlotte Ledger podcast is presented by Childcare Search, helping families navigate childcare with confidence. So what are some of the plans that you have for the Charlotte Economics Club? Obviously, we talked about you have those monthly lunches. What are some of the other things that you're doing to kind of, spread the interest and appreciation of some of these topics in Charlotte?
Yeah. So like you said, we hold 10 events a year at the Charlotte City Club. They're luncheon style and they're great. About 2 hours. There's 30 minutes of networking. I always highly encourage people to show up about 30 minutes before we sit down, because that's where everybody's talking. People are meeting each other. There's networking going on. It's fantastic. You sit down, you have this great meal, and then watch the panel or the conversation or the speaker speak. And then afterwards, around 1:30 after Q&A, everybody hangs out and kind of meets with the speaker and things like that. It's great. But we're growing our formatting beyond that. And so we now are offering socials once a quarter to allow all of our members and non-members to attend. They're fantastic. Live music. There's a bar. We have a signature cocktail called the Policy Pivot that's really popular amongst our members and people that come. And it's just an opportunity for people to get together and talk about work, economics, or what have you. So the socials have become a big hit. And then
hey, just out of curiosity, I want to get back. What's in a policy pivot?
So we actually had a guy, he's called the Cocktail Craftsman, developed this drink for the Economics Club. He's a great guy. And we wanted something economics based. So we automatically thought bourbon. And so it's a bourbon based drink that has a little bit of mint in it. It's really delicious. It was quite popular, and we're bringing it back by popular demand at the next event.
All right. I'll have to make it to one of those socials. I'm sorry, I interrupted you as far as the other things we're going on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the socials, and we're hoping to hold an economics gala at the end of the year. That's TBD, to kind of recognize the organizations and individuals in the community of Charlotte that are making an impact locally on education, on economics, on business development, and things of that nature. We're also launching our own podcast. And then we also have a big student engagement program going on. One of my initiatives, one of the Economics Club's initiatives as an educational organization is I want to be able to provide access to students to some of these great speakers, some of the great people that are sitting in this room, to allow them the opportunity to network and learn. Listen, there's nowhere else in the city of Charlotte, at least at the moment that I know of, that you can go and listen to the global economists of Goldman Sachs talk about the economy for an hour. That's a huge benefit, not just to the city and our members, but it should be available to other people and students as well, so they can understand this is what economics is. This is what's going on in my society. This is what's going on in the community from an economic perspective, and give them the opportunity to shake hands with some of the people that are sitting in that room that they aspire to be someday, those managing directors, those vice presidents, and so forth.
Yeah, there's probably a conception from people that, okay, an economics club is going to be a bunch of old guys sitting around the room smoking cigars or something like that, when really that's not really it. I mean, you have a bunch of young people, a bunch of people of different ages and different backgrounds, right?
Yeah, the demographic is wild. Again, we just don't have bankers. We don't just have economists that attend these events. We have students. We have people that are just enthusiasts. We have consultants, accountants, local government officials that attend these events. It's a broad spectrum of people that Charlotte, at the end of the day, is a financial hub. And so you get a lot of that, but the demographic's pretty wide and varied.
Yeah, it is also, it's always interesting to me to hear people in Charlotte that are involved in so many different things. There are all these different clubs, all kinds of different things. And I guess it's like any legitimate big city. You have people, you got mahjong clubs, you got pickleball clubs, you got run clubs, you got all kinds of people doing all kinds of different things in economics and finance in a banking city, or what's been long known as a banking city, with good justification. Seems like it makes a lot of sense. And to do it right there at Trade and Tryon, we're pretty close to Trade and Tryon, right in the City Club. I'm guessing that's a pretty good spot to be.
Yeah, everybody can walk right out of their office and right into the City Club, attend a lunch and meet people, and it's fantastic. We are branching out. We hope to branch out next year into some other events, maybe outside of Uptown. The luncheon will remain the same. But, my biggest goal in 5 years, you said it, Charlotte's a financial hub. And we are becoming quite quickly a center of financial influence, especially for the Southeast. And so by proportion, I think it makes a lot of sense that in 4 or 5 years, the Economics Club of Charlotte is competing on scale with or other organizations like the Charlotte Club, the Economics Club of New York, the Economics Club of Chicago and Cleveland and DC. I mean, because that's where this city is headed. And so I think that influence that we'll be able to project in that time will be fantastic, not just for the Economics Club of Charlotte, but for the city of Charlotte itself.
Yeah, I mean, what's the background of those clubs? I mean, those, I'm guessing, are better known. You have national kind of reputations, been around for a long time.
Right,
I mean, what is it that they do that you're sort of aspiring to?
So it's not so much that what they do, because what we do is very similar. But when somebody goes to speak or they want to speak at an economics club, they'll go to the Economics Club of New York or Chicago, just because there's such a broad membership there. It's covered so broadly and highly. The Federal Reserve president will go speak there. Presidential candidates will go speak there. Industry leaders will go speak there. And at the Economics Club of Charlotte, we do that as well. We have business leaders come and speak. But to get to that level where presidential candidates are coming to speak. Now, we're a bipartisan organization, and our speakers are bipartisan as well. We don't take any political track one way or the other. But to be able to bring in that kind of influence is great for the city of Charlotte. And given where we are going as a city, I think it's quite attainable.
How do you, because I'm guessing, you'd love to have the CEOs of some of the banks, come in and talk. How do you reach them, and how do you, as an organization, try to scale up and try to get some of those big names?
with our growing membership and our growing social media footprint, and with partnerships like the one we have with the Charlotte Ledger, word of mouth and marketing is everything. And we already get some pretty big names: the vice chair of the Federal Reserve Bank, the OCC chairman. These are all huge names that come and speak at the Economics Club of Charlotte, or the Charlotte Economics Club rather. And so I don't think it's too far to scale. I think we're right there. Quite honestly, I think if I just had to ask, it wouldn't be a bridge too far given our network of members. And the club was founded in 1996. Over that time, we've had thousands and thousands of members, to include chief economists of various banks, CEOs of different banks. And so the network is there. I just don't think we've asked yet. And I think that's a good point. And I think maybe that's a question I need to start asking.
There you go. Yeah. And you touched on, I mean, how did this club get started? What do we know about that?
So it's a bit of a mystery. So sometime in the late 1900s, to date myself, in 1996, a group of people came together just to talk about economics, and it kind of escalated from there, and it kind of grew into a format. And I think around this time, the Economics Club of New York and Chicago were pretty prominent, and Charlotte was growing, and so these folks wanted to create something similar. And ever since then, it's really grown. So you're talking about 30 years worth of growth, thousands of members over that time. I don't even know how many events over that time. And to think about everything that the organization has seen and spoke about, in 1996, you had the dot-com boom and then the dot-com bust. You had the housing rise and the housing fall, the mortgage crisis, financial crisis, 2008. Then we rode that wave through of low interest rates, and then COVID hit in 2020. Then you had tariffs. So imagine that 30-year period, everything that the organization of Charlotte has seen and spoken about and been able to shed light on to the community and the people that attend the event.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a pretty amazing. I mean, if you think just back to economic history of the last 30 years, I mean, everything from Y2K to cyber warfare to all these different kinds of topics.
And geopolitical, commodity oil, right? And during that time period, we invaded Iraq and Afghanistan. I was part of those missions as well. And so the geopolitical aspect of it too, I find really fascinating. How geopolitics impact macroeconomics in the United States and globally. And we have people come and talk about that as well. We've had retired generals come and speak on geopolitical issues and their impacts on economics.
Yeah. How did you get involved? What was it that caught your eye, and what made you say, okay, this is something I want to check out?
So when I left the military, I got into finance. I found economics really interesting, and I'm not an economist by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm a very curious person. And somebody told me about the Economics Club, and so I attended one of the events, and it was the people that I got to meet there at first. The networking opportunities that really got me at first, because you're just meeting so many varied people in so many different industries. And when you have a genuine, sincere curiosity about people, it's really easy to meet them and talk about. And then I found the topics were really interesting, because there were topics I was already talking about with people and having conversations and conjecture like, oh, this, rates are up because of X. Well, now I get to hear it from the guy that actually studies this on a daily basis. And so I just became super interested in it. And since then, I've become like as best as one can teach themselves economics. I think I've done a pretty good job of it, and I've learned from a lot of great people over the last 5 years. So that's how I got involved.
Well, great. Just about out of time. Any other thoughts? If somebody wants to plug in, what's the best way to do that?
So the best way to find this is the charlotteeconomicsclub.org. You can find this on LinkedIn at the Charlotte Economics Club. That's a great way to get all of our information. All our events are posted there. And then you should become a member. Our membership fees are only $150 a year. And that provides you access to events at discounts, socials, and things like that. It also allows you the opportunity to be a part of the community and just promote the greatness that is Charlotte.
Well, great. Well, we'll leave it right there. Michael, thanks for joining me.
Tony, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
That's it for today. To our listeners, thank you for listening. You can find out more about the Charlotte Ledger at thecharlotteledger.com. This episode of the Charlotte Ledger podcast was produced by Lindsay Banks. This episode of the Charlotte Ledger podcast was presented by Child Care Search, providing families with personalized guidance and free referrals for quality child care programs.
QueenCityPodcastNetwork.com.